What a treat we're in for tonight. I mean, really one of the major stars today is joining us to talk about how she got here, her journey, what's going on now. I couldn't be more excited and pleased to introduce and bring out Kim Raver.
Hi, gang. Thanks for coming.
Anything you want to say just off the top of your head before we can get started?
It's nice that you all came out. I appreciate it. Thanks.
So before we get started into all of your career and everything, I had a quick question that I wanted to ask you. How does it feel to have an unofficial website called Adoring Kim Raver, which claims that it's your leading source for everything Kim Raver, over 5,000 pictures. Do you know about this website?
I don't even know about it. I heard someone was twittering for me the other day, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I wonder what they're saying." I didn't know that.
I mean, with the I went on that website today just because I wanted to check this out.
What do they say?
Well, obviously it's Adoring Kim Raver, so it said it had wonderful things to say. But I mean, they have stills of pretty much every show that you've ever been on.
Wow.
Where they capture it, right off TV now, because you can do that. Mm-hmm. They have over 5,000 pictures up there. And all
I didn't even know there was 5,000 pictures.
Well, because they take it off the TV.
I see.
They can take one scene and get hundreds of pictures out of it. And it just went on, and I was like, oh my God, what is that?
Okay, that's enough of Kim
What does
Raver.
that feel like?
5,000, that's way too many. It's funny. I don't really kind of take that in or acknowledge. I just sort of, for me, it's really, it's about the work, and I have 2 kids, and so, I was saying as I came here, literally, I was like thanking them for the directions. It was so specific, which I really needed, because I literally got in my car and I was like, okay. It's like minute by minute. I fed my 2 boys. I got dressed. I got in the car and I was like, okay, where am I going? Okay, I got 35 minutes. So I don't really have time to kind of process this, which is probably a good thing.
Probably. Yeah. So you mentioned having 2 boys, and it's got to be very difficult to have a successful career like you have right now and still be mom to 2 boys. How do you juggle that? How does that work for you?
Very tricky. I think both help me in both being a better mom and being a better actress. I mean, I feel that it really forces me to, I have to be very present and very in the moment, because I don't have a lot of time to kind of just hang out and I think I go, okay, well, I know that this is my time with my boys, and I really want to focus and be present and be with them. And then I know, okay, I put them to bed. I got to memorize my lines for tomorrow. I got to, set the alarm. I got to get up at 4:30, and then I got to drive to work. And but then it's also the same thing with being at work. I think I'm then really grateful that I get to do something that I love to do, and I think it's also taught me how to try to with kids you have to be really clear and follow through, and I try to do that, but I think that also helps with the dynamic at work. You're dealing with a lot of people, and you have to sort of learn how to communicate, and it may not always go your way, and find the best way to sort of resolve conflict, and so I just don't think I realized also like how much there is of the business. There's the acting, which I think we all love, and that's why we get into it. And then there's like, oh my God, there's all this sort of the business of it. So I think one really helps with the other.
I know that your boys are young, but do they understand and know that mommy is an actress?
I think the 7-year-old does. I don't think the 2-year-old does.
2-year-old probably doesn't know much at all.
Well, he does know a lot, actually, which is incredible. Well, and the funny thing is, I had to, 24 just had their sort of series finale on Friday, and I had been shooting Grays all day and all week, and the baby really wanted to be with me, and since he was born, I would bring him to set because that sort of enabled me to spend time and so, it's also the multitasking. Like, how do I do it? It's multitasking. So if it's while I'm in hair and makeup reading a book to my 2-year-old, so he just kind of climbed into my lap and we read a book while I was doing hair and makeup, and everyone sort of learns how to adjust around the 2-year-old, and but he kind of like looked up at the hair dryer, and I was thinking, wow, he's been doing that since, because I was doing Lipstick Jungle in New York, and I literally had the baby, and like 3 or 4 weeks later I went back to work. So I was like, I'm nursing this baby, and this baby's coming to work with me, and everyone sort of figured it out on set. But I thought, wow, so Leo's the younger one. He gets that I work and that I, does he know I'm on TV? No, I don't, and Luke, I had to shoot this Sunday, and I really wanted to be with the kids. So I brought Luke, the eldest, who's 7, brought him to work with me. And and I thought about him too, like he's been coming, since he was born when I was doing Third Watch, but coming on set probably starting at 24, but not all the time because there's so many guns and whatever. Like I didn't want to be on set during those scenes. But he was great. I mean, he would find a place, and it's funny because he wanted to be more quiet when they were rolling than I did. Like he was, I think, chewing gum or something, and he had the headset while he was watching, and I saw him take out the gum, and he like kind of put it aside, and he didn't want to make noise chewing, put it back in again, and so both my boys are really, it's been really important to me that I can bring them to work and bring them on set, and so in that aspect, they get that I work, and they get that I think Luke gets that I'm on TV.
Now, you started on TV very young, actually younger than Luke is now. Think he has any aspirations, or thinks maybe, boy, mommy, you think you can?
No, I think he wants to be an athlete.
Yes, okay.
He's really into baseball, and the other day, the Sunday before that, I had to work too, and he came, and so the director put him in. We had to do the scene, so the patient wasn't quite ready yet, so they put him into the bed. He's like, wow, this is really boring. I don't think he wants to do that. I was like, yeah, just wait. I was like, stay in that bed for a couple hours. You'll see how fun work is. No, I'm just kidding.
That's great.
Yeah, so no, I think, I think he wants to be an athlete, yeah.
But for you then, it's a nice feeling being able at least to bring them on set and spend a little bit more time with them that way, even though having them around what you do.
Yeah, I just, and I think, I'm not sure, but I feel like the business has gotten much more, and also in other businesses, I talked to some people who are in the magazine world, and I know now that they have like a center in their building where women can nurse, and, and I think on set, I feel like they're a little more accepting for people who have kids, especially mothers who have kids. And I don't know whether that's because of where I am in my career, or just that I think they're realizing that women are a big asset, and and they want to be able to have a family and work, and it's very tricky. And I know that I was much more nervous my first child, like how am I want to be able to incorporate bringing my kids to work and but not disrupt anything. As opposed to, Lipstick Jungle, so.
So let's talk about you at 6 years old.
Okay.
Sesame Street. How did that happen? Was that something you actually knew you wanted to do, or how did all that happen?
No, I think I definitely, I think there was some kind of performer in me, whether it was like singing in the living room or playing in the living room or whatever, but, my mom was a single mom raising 2 kids by herself, and she was in some shopping mall, which was like, TJ Maxx of today or something, right? And so someone came up to her and said, would your kids like to be in Sesame Street? And I think I was too young at the time, but then we waited, and then, I got into it. And, for me, I really don't consider myself a child actress. It was really like go and have fun, and you get to count and learn to do the ABCs, and it was not, I just don't consider myself sort of a child actress of that. It wasn't till later when I joined a theater company that I would really consider that sort of where I began.
Did you enjoy Sesame Street?
Oh, it was
fun for you?
amazing. It was amazing.
Was it a fun thing for a child to
Oh,
just-
yeah. I mean, it was this, I would walk in every week and it was this amazing room filled with, and this was before, I don't think I got that it was television. Like I wouldn't go home and like watch myself on television, you know what I mean? It was just this amazing world filled with puppets, and they used to put the snuffleupagus, I still say I'm wrong, like up in the rafters. And I think the weirdest thing for me was they would put like, whatever puppet was that I was counting with. And if the nose wasn't right, they would just sort of Velcro it off and put another nose on. And I was like, whoa, that's really weird. But, or I also thought it was really bizarre that like they put me in the middle of July, they'd put me like in a winter coat and then they'd have fake plastic snow fall on me. And I was like, why are we pretending it's winter or it's summer? And, but it was a really magical place. I remember they had these doors from the green room onto the sound stages, and it said 1, 2, 3 Open Sesame Street, and Open Sesame, and you'd go and you'd walk into this sort of magical world. So for me, it was 3 years of sort of magic playtime, or a paid preschool, if you will. I mean,
great.
Yeah.
So from there, I know that you then joined, I believe it was the first off-Broadway children's theater.
Yeah.
in New York?
Yeah.
Did that come right after Sesame Street? Was it by now you knew you wanted to do this? So it was like.
I think the moment where I said, this is what I want to do, is I went to the first all children's theater company, and it was just kids from the ages of 6 to 17. And it was really a mix of kids from all over New York, and mix just, racially, financially. It was a really great sort of feeling of New York. And we were all coming from different schools, different backgrounds. And I went to see one of their plays, and I remember sitting, it was maybe a room like this big, a little bit bigger, and there was one performer in there, and I remember looking up at him, and it was like this light was coming out of him, and he was performing, and he was so into it, and he was so good, and he was so talented, and he was just like illuminated of joy of that this is what he loves to do. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And on my way out, there was a little sign-up sheet to audition. And so I was 12 or 13 at the time, and I told my mom, and I went in to audition, and it was like a 3-part process, and I got in. And I stayed with that company for 3 years, and it was literally sort of, I would say, my basis for how I kind of conduct myself today. If you were a minute late, you were kicked out of the company, and that was if the bus broke down, if there was traffic, and we were all coming from school. I mean, there was like, I would bolt out of school. My friends were going to hang out at the local pizzeria, and I would, I'd take one bus downtown, another bus, bus cross town, and it was all these kids who were really dedicated, who really loved to be there. And, then Elizabeth Swados wrote a play for us, and we did a benefit on Broadway, and, we went to Toronto, and we kind of traveled. And so it was, really dedication. I mean, you really had to sort of be in it to be in it. It wasn't glamorous, but it was everyone loved what they were doing. So I think that's really when I fell in love with this. My sister is super academic, and she went off to boarding school, and so when I finished this theater company, then I was thinking, oh gosh, do I go to a professional children's school and keep doing theater, or do I, make sure I kind of have a base like my sister? Or so then that's sort of what led me to the next thing.
Which was?
I decided to go away to boarding school.
Okay.
Just in case this didn't work out. And that was also a really great, I think also for me, I really believe as an actor, it's good to balance your life with life and acting, and I think the life thing has always kind of strengthened me as an actor. And the actor thing has always kind of strengthened me in life. And so I went away, but I kept finding myself, and I guess I was also sort of testing myself. Is this what I really want to do? Do I really love this? And so then I started getting into the theater company that was there. And I did some theater there. And then again, do I go to, a theater university? Do I just go to New York and try to make it happen? And then that led me to, my sister was at Harvard at the time, and I was like, wow, okay, well, I'm not going to Harvard. But what do I do? And so I went into the liberal arts program at Boston University. I was like, well, let me try again, like test myself and see if, because I knew that this is not an easy, business, and that what if it doesn't work out? What am I going to do? And then I found myself, I was in the liberal arts program, and at BU, you can't go into the theater program unless you audition. It's a huge audition process. So I remember sneaking over to Cambridge, and I snuck into the auditioning process for the Harvard program. They never asked me if I was at Harvard, so I figured, well, if they don't ask, I'm going to keep on trying. And I got into like 5 plays. And then it came down to, so, what dormitory are you in? And I'm like, that's going to be a problem. So I think I lost like 4 of the plays, and I could only do 1 of the plays. And I still kind of, and that also is an example to me kind of this business. You gotta kind of find the things that, you don't want to really break any rules, but you kind of want to get in and find your way. And so that to me also, I never consider myself, and people may be like, oh yeah, right, sure. But it was never like handed to me. I never felt like, even when I finally got into the theater program at BU, I wasn't like, there were some other people who were kind of looked much older than me, and so they kind of kept getting the big leads at like Hedda Gabler and like, so I felt like I kept, I was like this, kept struggling to get, to get in, and whether it was like going over to Harvard, no, I'll probably never repeat that I was like sneaking into Harvard place, but anyway, now it's out in the open, but, and
the Harvard police.
Oh my God, Harvard, exactly. They're gonna be like, listen, you just told all these people to like be sneaking into our program. I'm sure since me, like now they ask you, do you go to Harvard? Right. But I think that was also a big lesson. You love what you do, you want to do it. Try to find a way to get in.
It's the Kim Raver rule.
It's the Kim Raver
Harvard.
rule at Harvard.
So now you're at BU. You I believe you graduate with a degree.
I did.
Have you done a SAG job yet?
Not.
Or has it all been pretty much theater, right?
It's pretty much been Kim Raver sneaking around, getting into things.
Okay.
No, I don't think I'd been a SAG, and I remember graduating. And again, like the BU thing was tough. It's like they keep cutting people every year. You think you're at like university, and then they like cut half the class, and then they cut half the class again. I mean, we started out like 75, and we graduated like 14. And like right there, it's like this kind of hard like reality of what this is, of like business meets what I love to do. But I think those are kind of good lessons of like, okay, keep going at it, keep finding a way, because that's, to me, that's what this business is. Whether you're just starting out or whether you're, working a lot, or, I mean, I'm sure that's something that just kind of keeps going. And so it's a way, it's a way to try to find yourself. And getting into a group of, people who, whether it's a room in here and rehearsing a play and just keeping the instrument going, I think is really important. So no, I don't think I had done a SAG job, but I remember coming to New York and I was like, it was like a catch-22. It's like you needed to be in SAG to get a job, but you needed to get a job to be in SAG. So I was like, well, how do you do it? So.
Well, that's the question that every actor who comes at her who's not in SAG yet, it's the same question. It's the same now as it was then, and it's that catch-22. And as you said before, there are no rules. Everybody has taken a different path to get there. What was your path? How did you finally make that happen for yourself?
So I came back to New York, and I was waiting tables.
Yeah, there's something no other actor can relate to.
No, not at all. And trying to find that. And I mean, I remember at one point, and you're waiting tables till like the crack of dawn and then you're supposed to like look good the next day and try to audition. It's like, are you kidding me? You barely are making the rent. You're so excited because you can actually eat dinner there. And I remember, like, I was like, oh, free meal, 4 o'clock, I'll be there. And then I remember at one point, I was like, well, I gotta, like, you know, then I finally, like, was kind of getting scripts. So I remember one restaurant, I was, like, in the worst, like, Mexican restaurant where it was, like, all you can eat and drink. That's always really fun. Like, great, you go to these people and they're ordering and they're practically like throwing up on you because they've drank so much, and they don't tip you because they don't remember that they have to tip you because they're so drunk. Oh, so I remember like being in the kitchen and the chef, and normally they're really not friendly to the waiters, but this guy was really great, and it was in the basement. And there was a chopping board, and I remember I took my script and I would hide under the chopping board, and I would read my scripts until like my food was ready to take it up. And all of a sudden I'm reading the script and I'm going through it and I'm like trying to read the script and work and like get up the next day, and I see these feet next to me, and it's the boss. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm reading the script and I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And he's like, you're fired. I'm like, that's what I'm doing. I'm like, I was out of there. So then I remember, you know, and so I just went through like waiting, you know, trying to get like a job waiting tables, and then I realized, okay, well, maybe if I can try to get a commercial, and like maybe that's the way I can kind of get it. So then I started trying to get into commercials, while at the same time, like in New York at the time, 42nd Street was amazing. I mean, not so great to walk down the street at 10 o'clock at night, but amazing because they had all these theater companies that people like me could go, and you know, other people from other theater schools were there, and I think there was a guy from Yale and a guy, you know, another person from Carnegie Mellon, and sort of all these like theater school people. And we started doing plays there. And so I was like, oh, thank God, at least I have other people that are in the same boat, and we could start doing plays. And then I was trying to go out, and I guess they had this thing where agents would come. I don't know whether it exists now out here, but like they would have where agents would come and see you. And I think I was also lucky enough that William Morris came up and saw a play that I was doing in Boston at the Huntington Theater. And that for me was like kind of my big break, because I was like, okay, at least I have now someone sending me out. So waiting tables, William Morris sending me out, and I think my first SAG job, a long-winded story, was a commercial. I think it was I think Ridley Scott was directing it. And that was like,
well, according to that website, it was Ridley Scott.
I think it was, I know, the adoring whatever.
Yeah, according to that site, it was Ridley Scott.
It was Ridley Scott. It was a Jeep commercial, and I think I gathered enough money to come out here, and I slept at a friend's house. It was really like, I think about, I don't know how I did it. You know, you just kind of figure out a way with the money that I had saved from waiting tables in New York. And got the commercial, and I think that was my SAG commercial, and sort of like the thing that kept me afloat so that I didn't have to wait tables because I got the residuals. And that was really when I was then able to like, okay, read the scripts during the day, then try to go in and audition. And also voiceovers then also became like a kind of saving grace, because I could also, I think then I had to, you know, then you go back to waiting tables and you're really exhausted, but you could at least like roll into a voiceover and not be put together and make some money. So that I think is sort of what started the ball rolling.
So were you still in New York at this time?
I was in New York, but I just had a feeling that if I didn't come out here every so often, I didn't know how I was going to make money. I mean, I think my big break was my Broadway debut, right, which I never expected to come first. I thought, oh, maybe, you know, when I'm much older, I'll be lucky enough to kind of do Broadway. And surprisingly to me, that came before, I think, TV.
Had you been coming out to LA before that happened, though, to try and do the TV?
I think it was sort of all around the same time. I think I got a couple gigs in New York. There's sort of like main things in New York that if you can get, it's like a really great get. Like it's Law and Order. And it kind of keeps the theater actors alive in New York. Law and Order, there was Spin City. I'm really dating myself now. And there was one more, and that, at that time, that was really it. And so I sort of felt like I had kind of gotten the only TV that was left in New York. And I decided, like, okay, I gotta, you know, get a cheap plane out to LA, stay on a friend's floor, and try to get, and just going, being able to go in and having casting directors start to get to know me, and because at the time they would put you on tape. I guess, you know what, that's God, that's funny, I don't remember. I think that's how I first came to LA. It was for a Star Trek test. That, and I stayed in some hotel that they put me up in Santa Monica, and I didn't get it, and I was crushed because I thought I'll never work ever. And then I was like, wow, there's a lot of work in LA. And so then in between, like, doing theater in New York and flying out here and grabbing a commercial, then I got my first job. My, like, sort of big job on TV was Third Watch. So.
Okay. Let me step back a minute, because you talked about your big break was the Broadway show, which was Holiday.
It was Holiday. With Laura Linney.
With Laura Linney and Tony Goldwyn.
Yeah.
So how was that for you? I mean, these were people obviously who had been around, had done stuff. How did that work for you?
I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I mean, I got an ulcer. I lost like 20 pounds. It was like, because I knew that it was sort of like my, you know, debut into the business. And I was like, if I fall on my face, it's over. And I was with Laura Linney, and, you know, she was such an established, as is today, but sort of like the, you know, queen of theater in New York. And I was playing her sister, and I was like, there's just no room for not being good in this. Bless you.
Yeah, bless you.
And so it was really kind of this magical, amazing experience for me, and terrifying at the same time. But it really, you know, I kind of taken all that I had learned at Boston University, but you're really putting it to kind of to use. And Laura was amazing, and Tony was great, and I loved it. I mean, I loved every minute of it, and that, I think, gave me a really great base. I mean, I really do believe, like, the more, you know, theater or theater projects or acting projects, the more that you can do that helps with sort of with everything. But that's the training that I've had. I mean, everyone else has different sort of views. Is anyone else freezing in here?
Yeah,
it's freezing in here.
It's cold.
Just wondered.
Cold
if it was
in
just no. I just wanted to make sure everyone else was okay. This is like, I always hear, you know, like the nighttime. It's the nighttime, like, shows, even when you're like the talk shows. You're like this, and then like everyone's like freezing.
How long did the show run?
It ran for like 5 months.
5 months.
And that was sort of the intended run. It wasn't going to be like a long year-run thing. But, you know, that was definitely, like, talk about stamina, and, you know, it was a great experience.
Did people come and see you there? I mean, you talked about William Morris had seen you in I think a production in college, and did people start to see you there? You know, maybe directors or producers. Did you know this? Were you aware of that going on?
I don't think I was aware of it. You know, again, I was so focused on just, you know, the work and making sure I could do the best work that I could do, and I wasn't. I just remember I was like, oh my God, the New York Times, like, everyone, you know, I knew that this was sort of like my sort of debut, and but I think casting directors came, and you know, everyone, and that's also sort of the thing of building the career, and, like, you know, people seeing you and more things, and so that maybe it's not that job, but it's 2 years down the road. Like, I mean, I still get today, like, oh, I saw you in Holiday, and so, you know, it's every little piece that you do then is people are seeing and noting, and keeping kind of you in the back of their mind.
Would you like to go and do some theater?
Oh, I would love to. I mean, I would love to. I mean, right now it's tricky because it always seems sort of that my hiatus from TV is only about, you know, 6 to 8 weeks, and again, I try to save a chunk of that for my kids, and going to do a play. It's really, you know, it's very demanding, sort of on you.
Speaking of, are you still going back to New York? Do you live both places? Are you bi-coastal?
As bi-coastal as I can be, because now my 7-year-old is in 2nd grade and
Out
it's
here?
Out here.
Okay.
But we definitely, they've definitely learned how to adjust, because I was here for 24, and then Lipstick Jungle was in New York, so we went back to New York, and then came back here for Grays, and so it's, it's definitely, you kind of feel like you're always moving.
So you mentioned after that you felt your big shot at all of this was Third Watch.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about? How did that happen for you?
Excuse me. I don't remember the end. Oh, I do. Sorry. I was like, how did that happen? It actually came from a show called Trinity, which was short-lived. And this is kind of a great example of the business. So I was out here and I kept auditioning for things. And then it would I'd get really close, I'd go to the network test, and I wouldn't get it. And I remember thinking, what am I doing out here? I just don't get it. They don't get it. They don't get me. And I remember auditioning for some other show for John Wells, and I didn't get it. And I remember calling my mom and going, I'm quitting the business. I was sobbing on the kitchen floor. I was like, I can't do this. It's I don't know how do you get really close and you don't get in, and they say they want you and then they don't want you, and here's all my insecurities and I'm telling you all. But I remember my mom was like, if you're done and you feel like I get it, we're here, we love you, we support you. And literally as I'm saying I'm quitting the business, there was call waiting, and I was like, click. They're like, can you come in tomorrow to test for a show called Trinity? And I was like, I'm not doing it. I can't take this. Okay, I'll be there at 9. And I clicked to my mom, and I was like, okay, I'm back in. She's like, okay, here we go. And then I got it. And I remember John Wells, and I don't know if you guys know, but John is this big executive who does, ER, and, he's sort of this huge kind of power guy. Thank you, whoever turned the heat up. I appreciate it. It's better. And so...
Was John Levy casting the show?
And John Levy was casting the show. And there was a really kind of great thing that started to happen where I was like, you know what? I just got to do my thing, and either they get it and they like it or they don't. And not kind of oh, I don't care about you, but I can only do what I do. And either it's going to be the thing that they want or it's not going to be the thing that they want. And I think that was a huge turning point for me. And I think, no one really tells you this, or they did, and I couldn't get it until one of those moments where when they're sitting behind those big tables and you feel this huge judgment of casting, they want to find someone. They are looking for someone, and they don't know what it is either. Because I would psych myself out. I would read the description of what they're looking for, and I'd be like, well, that's not me. I'm not going to be it. They're never going to cast me. Well, that's not going to help me. And so if I just said, all right, well, this is my thing. This is how I see the character. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm open to, suggestions. And I think then there's something that pops because you're being true to yourself. You're doing what you can do as opposed to pretzeling into something that's totally not you. And then I would walk out of those auditions going, I hate myself. I was doing something I thought they wanted, and, so I think that was a big turning point. And so did Trinity. Trinity went for a certain amount of time, then got canceled. And then John wrote the Kim Zambrana role in Third Watch. And and that went on for 5 years. I guess 6 years. And I really felt like I had kind of done the Kim Zambrano as much as I could, and I had asked if I could move on, in a great kind of way. It all worked out for everyone, and then I got 24.
Interesting thing. I mean, you started out talking about how you would go in and not sure, and you're ready to quit, and you're ready to give it up, and so on and so on. 5 years later, you're saying, well, I want out of this role.
Right,
so
right.
It's just an interesting change that actors can go through, where you're fighting for everything you can get, and then you're in something, and 5 years later it's well, I want to move on.
Well, but it wasn't like I want to move on because I wasn't grateful, like incredibly grateful
no,
for the role.
Right.
But I felt like for that series and that time, we had really told all the stories that we could, and it wasn't, I could have stayed,
Right.
and it would have been great, but I also was really hungry to try to do more and do something different. And I didn't want to sit back and be like, oh, I wish I had, I don't know, I felt like there was something different, and it was kind of amazing how 24 literally happened like the next kind of day,
Right.
you know, and maybe just instinctually I kind of felt that, and kind of, and that character was so completely different. And so I sort of was willing to take that risk of losing something for gaining something, not better, not
Something else.
this, but something else. And I definitely made sure that I had, and I, you know, that I had sort of John Wells's blessing
Right.
to move on. And to this day, he's still a mentor and a friend, and so. And I think then what I then gained from 24, you know, I just always want to be growing. I always want to be growing and never settling. And that's sort of what that came out of.
Let me just jump back to Third Watch just for a minute, because that was your, you know, the first regular for run that you had. How did that start to impact you as an actor? How did that start to maybe even impact your life, just in terms of seeing what some of the possibilities were now? Because you weren't just going from role to role anymore, audition to audition. You now had this. How did that change you and your
Well, it's
your
funny. I mean,
approach?
I still was auditioning for things because I'd still, you know, it wasn't, for certain things I still was auditioning.
Okay.
You know, and that's, you know, good and tricky at the same time. You know, you're feeling accomplished, but yet you're still like, you know, you still feel like you're doing this. But I feel like in the sense that it gave me a certain security of, I wasn't having to wait tables because I knew financially money was coming in so that I could, you know, try to focus on what it was that I wanted to do next. And also start a family. That was really important to me. And so, you know, that's when I had my first son. And that was really important to me. That was really important that I didn't want to look back. And it's really a tricky thing for women. I mean, in the sense that, because I'm sure for fathers as well, but I think also for women to figure, like, how am I going to be on camera and be pregnant? And this was at a time where, you know, now I feel like in the last like 4 years, like everyone is, you know, everyone's sort of able to do it and hide it with a potted plant or a folder. And do you know what I mean?
They're sitting behind a desk.
But
They're-
8 years ago, it wasn't, you know, people were being fired for being pregnant, which is kind of astounding. So it was definitely, God, do I want to do this and risk being fired? And then I sort of said to myself, well, you know, I don't want to look back and not have had my kids because I didn't, you know, was afraid of not having a job. So there was a lot going on of being able to have a kid, being on a show, feeling like a regular. My craft was definitely, I felt, growing because, you know, you're working really hard every day. And it just kind of set a great base for me.
Now, the theater training, bringing it into being a series regular, was that helpful to you, just in terms of knowing, in terms of being on all the time? And
I think it's very different. It's a very different craft, and I definitely had to learn. I mean, for me, you know, you've got a theater where you're trying to project to the back wall, and then you've got a camera that's right here. So that was kind of, you know, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't as big as I was when I was doing theater, and just bring it into, you know, your eyes. And so that was a learning curve too. But I definitely, for me, I feel like it's much easier to go from a big choice and bring it down to a small choice and then trying to make it huge. And also being in New York and being able to be in my hometown, if you will, and do the series.
so 24. How did that come about, since it happened so fast? Did they did they know that you were released and you were no longer doing Third Watch? They came looking for you, or
it was literally like in the crux of me, like the deal hadn't been like solidified that I was gone from Third Watch. They said you really should meet the producers of 24. I was like, I don't know if I can like get on a plane, go out there. I was like, all right, just do it. And I remember flying out here and like driving over there, and you know, and they said they'd been seeing people for like weeks and like months for this new role, and I was like, they're gonna have found someone. I mean, like, you know what? And then they were like, well, Kiefer's not going to be there. He's in, I don't know, he was like in the rainforest or something. Because normally, like, Kiefer has to like read and approve the person because he's also a producer. And so I was like, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know, whatever. But I knew it was such a huge deal, and 24 was such a big deal. And I drove over there. And again, it was that sort of thing like, well, I just got to do what I know and do the best that I can. And I went in, and it was one of those things. It was like everyone's sitting down at a thing, and but this time I was really close. Like normally in New York, you're kind of far away, like maybe 4 rows in. Like this, they were literally like this, and I was like, oh, they're really close. And I kind of did my thing, and they were like, welcome, something like, welcome, Audrey, we're glad to have you. And I was like, what the hell did that mean? I was like, they are really weird in LA. Like, are they just getting all chummy with me? I was like, that is so weird. And I was like, okay, thanks. And they're like, okay, let's bring you upstairs and introduce you to everyone. I was like, what the hell is going on? And I'm like, do I have it? Is he kind of saying I have it? And so he's like introducing me to everyone and showing, they're like, this is our new Audrey. And I'm like, I'm really confused, but I didn't want to like let on to like I didn't know what they were talking about. So I'm going around and they're introducing me as Audrey, and I'm like, and Audrey was the character of 24 at the time. And so I get in my car and I call my agent. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, they're calling me Audrey. Do they not know my name is Kim? I'm like, are they really chummy with me? Like, because everyone's so friendly in LA, but then like I really don't have the job. And so, you know, my heart's racing because I'm like, oh my God, is it really possible to have another job? And oh, what does that mean? Do I have to move out to LA? And my head was just like, so finally they call me back. They're like, okay, well, you know, Kiefer's got to approve you. He's in the rainforest. I'm like, he's in the rainforest? I'm like, what's he doing? He was doing some movie. And I was like, I can't wait. Like what? So finally, like, I guess they sent my tape or whatever. Kiefer approved me. And I literally started like, you know, 2 weeks later. So like, and I had my family. I had to get my whole family out here. And, you know, and at the time, I don't know if you guys knew, but it was like, oh, if you're Jack Bauer's girlfriend, you're dead in a week. So it wasn't like, oh, I have a job and it's going to be a job for the next 3 years. I was like, okay, well, I got a job for a week.
Right.
And so, you know, I mean, like I was literally starting, I had no place to live. I didn't know, driving in LA to me was like, I'm used to going taxi or subway, you know, I mean, so I remember there was like an ad in like Backstage or SAG, or I can't even remember what it was, for a house. I was like, we'll take it. So we took it, we moved in it, we did it like week by week, and you know, 3 weeks went by, I was like, I'm still not dead yet. Like 4 weeks went by, 3 months, I'm like, still not dead yet. And then like the relationship started. Oh, and I remember my first day, like I knew I was having a relationship with Jack Bauer, but I didn't kind of know. They're like, it was the first day, we did one scene, you know, and it was really intimidating. I mean, I just remember it was like, but I kind of like had to hold my own, like New York theater. Okay, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna be fine. I'm fine. I met Keeper, I'm fine. And I remember we did one scene. They're like, the director and the producers want to talk to you. I was like, oh, that's it, I'm dead. I was like, I didn't even last a scene. They're like, it's going so well. Here's a love scene. I was like, what? I was like, here's a love scene. I was like, okay, Kiefer, nice to meet you. I guess we're making out. Okay. And so like from that point on, it was just like, we kept sort of seeing like, well, how is this, the relationship's going well, but like, and people kept saying to me, oh, if the relationship's going well in the show, you're really a goner. So you're dead soon because Jack Bauer doesn't fall in love. So I just literally, my husband's like, well, what are we doing? Are we here? Are we there? I was like, I don't know. I was like, we got a job for now. So like, let's just, so literally I did the house like month to month. And finally, I think after, I don't remember at what point, but we moved our stuff from New York. And then 3 years later, you know, I was like, oh, but that's also the thing of like being an actor. It's like, you think, okay, I got a job, but I don't know for how long. So, you know, you keep your stuff in storage a lot of the time.
Well, especially if you're going coast to coast.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah, but then I was screwed because then the minute I moved my stuff from New York out of storage and like I built a house here, I got Lipstick Jungle and I went back to New York. And then Lipstick Jungle was canceled and I came back out here. I should just keep like one of those boxes, those container boxes, and just keep my life in it and never hang anything up.
So how did you enjoy 24? I mean, that was such a different situation and a different role in Third Watch.
Completely different. The adrenaline and the stress level was, you know, was very, very high. Just because they kind of work on the fly there in the way. Kiefer's very intelligent, very serious about his work, but also has a great sense of humor and a sense of humor of like people who know what they're doing. So you never, you know, you know, the bar, he's just so good that the bar is set very high. So, you know, we would like go in and they would say, well, you know, usually in television, which I'm sure you guys know, like it's not, you know, I'm used to theater, like 6 weeks rehearsal, you know, this is like, you know, 1 hour and you're shooting. But rehearsal's really important to Kiefer, so he would save time aside, but then it would be like, and like all of a sudden you'd have like a totally new scene. I'm not a quick study. I'm not like, oh, look at the page and like, let's shoot. I'm like, I need time. There's no time. So literally like we would set it up, we would rehearse it. I would run frantically back to my trailer and they need touch-ups for hair and makeup. I'm like, no touch-ups, no hair and makeup. I got to memorize this new monologue. And I remember one day with Kiefer, I was like, you know, this scene's really not making sense that you're saying this and like, He's like, fine, you say it all. And I was like, oh my God, it's a 3-page monologue. I'm such an idiot. I was like, okay, Kiefer, get away from me. I was like in my room, I was like, okay. And this is all like walk and talks. This is like, and like literally like you do on 24, you shoot like a huge master and you also shooting your close-up at the same time. So there's just like no time for error, you know? And I remember Seal was there, the musician, you know, and I love him. I'm a huge fan. He's like, hi, Kim, I was like, I can't talk to you. I have a 3-page monologue. And he was like, oh, okay. I was like, so nice to meet you. And it's literally like, and I came back, you know, and we shot it, you know, and so it was definitely like, it was one of the best times of my life. And also, you know, again, like ulcer. You know what I mean? But working with that group, you know, like I said, we just had sort of the series finale on Friday, and it was just kind of incredible to sort of see everyone from over the 8-year period and to have been a part of that.
You went to the wrap and party and everything?
Yeah,
yeah. To see everybody and kind of enjoy that?
Yeah, yeah.
Any I don't know, kind of mixed feelings about having maybe wanted to stay a little longer doing that show, or?
You know, I always have, there's like this sort of, you know, that role for me is like, there's definitely like a special place in my heart for that.
Sounded like it.
You know, and it was really, Kiefer and I had such an amazing working relationship. I don't know, there was just like we just worked really well together and trying to tighten things up. And you know, sometimes you'll find throughout the career, and I'm sure you guys feel this way, that there's certain people that just like it just clicks and you work really well together. And you know, we had some really heavy duty scenes. I mean, there was a scene I remember, you know, where his character is torturing my character, and you know, I mean, that was just amazing, challenging work and so rewarding. And you know, so that I definitely have a very sort of special memory there. But at the same time, again, like you know, each time there's sort of that panic of, oh my God, I'll never work again. Another interesting, you know, role comes up and pushes me to a different place, different level, different people.
What about 9? The Nine.
The Nine, so short-lived. um, The Nine was great. You know, working on the pilot of that, Alex Graves was the director and executive producer who I just adore. I just think he's such an amazing director, and he's so excited about everything. And the cast in there was amazing. You know, there were 9 of us. It was big cast. And shooting those bank scenes were endless. You know, it's because like you had 9 people to cover, and we were there all the time. And I loved it. I loved doing it. You know, I think it sort of lost its way a little bit, and us trying to tell that story. And but it was a great experience.
Did they have any idea when they were doing that show what it was going to wind up being at the end, if they could have?
People still ask me, like, what happened in there? I'm like, I don't know. You know what I mean? And for those of you who don't know, it was, you know, a hostage situation. We were in the bank. I mean, I definitely, like, I made up things for myself of what my character went through, because otherwise it would have just been this sort of, like, bland, I think, non-performance. I think they had ideas, I'm sure they had ideas, but I don't think, you know, I think that we were all sort of finding our way as we went along.
I want to jump back to something which actually has to do with what a couple of shows you talked about. You mentioned in 24 that you brought up to Kiefer about he shouldn't be saying these lines. It didn't quite fit.
Wait.
No.
I never said to him, you shouldn't be saying these lines.
They didn't quite fit. Okay, how did you say it?
I just said, I'm not quite sure that this makes sense.
Okay.
Of the way the scene goes.
Okay.
That's very important.
No, okay. You said to Kiefer you weren't sure if it makes sense in terms of the way the scene goes.
Right.
And so it got changed.
Right.
Now, when you had your first series, Third Watch, were you comfortable enough to say those kinds of things? Or did that come because you started to feel more comfortable saying, you know what, I should be able to say this now that as I've grown and so on?
I think it definitely comes from experience on a set, working with scenes. I think each job is different. I think Kiefer, I have to be very careful because I don't want to put, I think in the rehearsal process before we shoot, it's very important to Kiefer. We still respect what the writers have done, which I think is very important. But also, a scene is very different when it's written in a room as opposed to when it gets up on its feet. And I think because of Kiefer's intelligence, he's able to do that very quickly. I don't think a lot of people are able to do that. And sort of fix a scene. And also, he knows his character so incredibly well that he's able to do that. So I think it all depends on circumstances, certain shows, certain writers. I've worked with writers that'll be like, it's word perfect. You say it exactly like this. And that's not to say that on 24, when I did make that crazy suggestion, you know, we still had to put the papers into the writers, and this is all happening within 25 minutes. I mean, they were upstairs and they had to approve it. Because I just want to be careful not to say like, oh, we just say whatever we want. No, there's a whole process, yeah.
And I by in no means meant to even imply that at all.
No, and I just wanted to be clear that, you know, so that I can get another job. They'll be like, that girl who A, sneaks into Harvard, who doesn't go there, and then B, who just says whatever she wants to say.
No, I was coming more from a place of, as you grow as an actor, feeling much more comfortable because you are this character now, and you embody that character. So the more you experience that you feel a little bit more
confident to be able to make suggestions.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yes, I definitely think from experience that I do try to make suggestions if I feel instinctually that maybe something is not working. That's not always to say that I kept my way in that, and then you end up sometimes also having to make a scene work that you don't necessarily think on paper is working, and you have to find ways to make it work.
That's part of what you have to do as an actor.
Exactly,
You got to find that place in there that's going to make it work no matter what.
Exactly.
So the 9 came and went.
It came and went, even though it was great and fun. And
it was fun. I remember after because you said they kind of, I think, weren't sure where they were going. I mean, I remember seeing the first show, the pilot episode, and I thought it was brilliant, and then after that, I think they just weren't sure where to go.
I
And
agree.
it was too bad, because I think they had an idea that could have worked if they
Yeah,
could have found
yeah.
that little spark.
Yeah.
But for you, that didn't stop you. You then went on anyhow, and I believe that's when Lipstick Jungle started to happen?
I
Not
think
too long after that?
Yeah, I think after the 9.
So were you out here when that happened, or were you already back in New York?
No, I was out.
You were,
Yeah, I was out here.
you were out here.
Yeah.
So how did your being out here, how did you make that work? Did they come looking for you specifically?
I think again it was that sort of thing that they couldn't find this role of Nico, and I always kind of think that's great. I mean, for me, like it's always like, well, I got nothing to lose, you know. Like if they can't find the role, you know, it just I don't know. Somehow I feel like, well, let me go in and just, you know, it kind of lessens the stakes for me in a way. But I was also friends with Brooke Shields at the time. So it kind of made it stressful, like, oh gosh, you know, let's make this work. And she was already in New York, and we really wanted to work together. But you know, you just, I mean, like, thankfully, like my family is able to kind of like pack up and go. And I think we were all really excited to go back to New York. The tricky thing was we did the pilot, and then I found out I was pregnant. So I was like, well, I don't know how that's gonna work, because I don't know if you guys saw Lipstick Jungle, but it's all like very high fashion, tight, like really tight outfits. And I was getting less tight by the minute. And I didn't want to lose the job. I didn't want to, and then I thought, well, I am what I am, and like, but I also didn't, you know, it's very tricky also, like how you know, and we kind of made it work. Then there was the actor strike. Which in a way kind of worked out for me because I was able to have the baby and then go back to work.
So they did that for you. Is what you're saying.
Yes.
That was so nice.
Wasn't that so nice? I tell you, they work things out. No, because I know that was a really tough time for everyone, and even the business now is kind of had like tough times. So I don't wish that on any of us again.
No, no one does, and obviously we were just kidding about that. But during that time, then, for you at least, because there was a strike, you could take a deep breath and actually focus on having another child and
Well, not really.
Not really.
Not really, because they had already written, I guess, 9 of the scripts before the strike. So we were actually, it was kind of tricky. I'm going to say that's a SAG, but we were shooting because we had the scripts that had already been written.
Right.
So I can't even remember how it ended up working out, but like nothing could be written, but we shot what was written.
It was already written, that's correct.
And that's why I kind of had to go back to work so quickly after having the baby.
How did that feel for you? I mean, you said, I think you said you went back like 3 weeks later.
I was angry.
Hard
It was
for you?
really.
Did the mom thing kick in at that point?
It did. I mean, it definitely did. But I guess the thing for me was it enabled me to be in New York, and my whole family's in New York. My mom's in New York, so it was kind of like a bittersweet sort of thing in the sense that, like, I was in New York, my family was there, I got to be back where I'm from, and I was grateful to be working, so it kind of was a mixed bag of tricks.
How about the character that you were playing at that point, Nico? She was, kind of a hard businesswoman, and
yeah, that's where all the anger came out. No, I'm just kidding. I'm so angry. No, it was interesting because I was at home. It was kind of a mess, just having had a baby, and it was my second kid, and I was trying to sort of juggle at home, and then I could go in and be a very sort of pulled together, high fashion, businesswoman. God, now everyone's gonna fall asleep because now it's boiling. Sorry. And I'm like taking off my.
Well, you said you were cold. They did.
I know. I'm not complaining.
It's
I'm
the
not
extremes.
complaining.
It's the extrems.
No.
From
if I just
shivering
start
to sweating.
shedding my clothes.
From shivering to sweating.
Exactly. I just want you guys to know why. So no, I think I was excited. I was excited. I was really excited to be a part of this. It was just a lot. It was a lot to juggle. It was a lot like, having a newborn and having another kid and doing 16-hour days and being in New York, but you kind of do it, and you don't complain. I was so grateful to be working, and and you just kind of figure it out. You do it.
Now, talking about figuring it out, you just figure it out and just do it. How did you find time to do the movies that you did?
Oh my God, I don't know.
I mean, in between all of this,
Yeah.
you know, and doing, you know, week after week after week and show after show as a regular, and you're moving on, and you found time to do movies.
Because I think when Ben Stiller says, you know,
You want to do this.
do you want to do? Yeah, yes, I do. Yes, I really do. And what's really interesting is Ben and I were in the theater company that I was talking about when I was 13.
The kids, oh my gosh.
So I literally walked in and auditioned, and I was like, is he going to remember? Do I bring it up? Is he bring it up? And he's like, you were in for it. So we started reminiscing about everyone. And it was a really kind of funny, great moment. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So he did obviously remember then that you were in that.
Yeah, but I still had to go through. There
Of
was
course,
like
right.
3 audition, processes of, sort of. And I was like, I really want this role. I was like, I have to, it's also in New York, and I'm also so glad because that's actually like one of the roles at that point that my kid could watch. 24, I was like too much guns. Third watch, ooh, too much blood. Lipstick Jungle, too much sex. I was like, what can he watch?
So he gets to watch that, and that also, it seems like certainly a different path in terms of being comedy and being funny,
Yeah.
in terms of what you've been doing on television. So it certainly is, a switch in terms of direction. How did you find that?
I think that was really helpful.
enjoyable
I
for
think that actually came out of, I called my agents one day and I was like, if I have to cry in one more scene, I'm gonna cry. I was like, I can't. This was after like several torture scenes on 24, and then I was like kidnapped. I was like, I just can't. I was like, this is gonna ruin my career. As great as it is that I'm working, I was like, I'm just gonna be like the crying person, and it was getting kind of annoying. I was like, I can't see myself cry one more time. And so that's, I think, and I sort of feel like I sort of would assess where I am in my career and say, okay, what do I need to do? What's something different? What's something that's going to sort of shake it up? And then that's when Night at the Museum, and I really think that started kind of and laid some groundwork. Then Lipstick Jungle, because that was kind of a comedy and drama, and then Grey's Anatomy, which is comedy and drama.
Sticking with the movie for a minute, Night at the Museum. So you worked with Ben Stiller, and Robin Williams was in that, and a bunch of other really funny people. How was that, working on that? I mean, it had to be a different feel on set in terms of that. And
it was. I mean, it was like one of those things where, like, you want to be pulled together and kind of keep yourself together. I could not stop laughing. I was like, I'm going to get fired because I cannot stop laughing. There was a scene with Paul Rudd and Ben Stiller. And Paul Rudd, oh my God, he would come in. He was playing like my current fiance, and he just would riff. And it was so completely different than 24, which was like we were like by the book, everything was. That I was like, I can't keep my act together here. Like, I just can't do this. They're gonna fire me. And even Ben couldn't stop from laughing. So I was like, okay, well, let Ben laugh first, and then then I can let it all come out, and it won't be my fault. So that was amazing. That was it was just great. It was just great to be laughing and sort of part of that whole comedy world. And but Paul and Ben are hysterical. They have a certain humor and a certain wit and a certain kind of no fear of making a fool. I just respect them so much because I could see each take, they were completely trying something that was completely different from the take before, and that was so refreshing and so fun.
Did you get into that at all?
The riffing?
Yes.
Slightly,
Did you start to go, okay, let me see if I can do something there?
I'm not Paul Rudd and Ben
No, I
Stiller, do you
understand,
know what
but
I
still,
mean? A little bit, not like when I'm at home, and like a total, make a fool of myself at home, but a little bit.
Okay.
I think it's important too.
Sure.
So.
Okay. And you also got a chance to work with Al Pacino.
Oh, that was so long ago. Yes.
I know that it was, but I'm just thinking in terms of film and working with different actors that otherwise you don't necessarily get to work with when you're on television. Was that working with an actor like Al Pacino, who has this name and certainly this reputation, and in terms of being one of the greater American actors, how was that to be on?
Well, I think my scene got cut, but what was
But
amazing,
you still got to work with.
I still got to work
Yeah.
with it. And what was amazing was watching him. He would riff in a totally different way. Okay. It's like I was just starting out and coming from theater, like you gotta be word perfect, and you gotta be and very rigid, and that probably comes from like maybe theater training, maybe being green, kind of all above. And I think watching him just sort of being able, he would riff in the sense where the camera would be on him, and if he had a monologue, and again, it may be completely different from anyone else's experience, but my watching him, and he would play around with the dialogue in so many different ways and different colors and I was so kind of mesmerized and impressed. And I think that was a great thing for me to be able to see, not necessarily have to keep it. Yeah, you got to keep it in with the box, and you got to be respectful of the writers. But you could see him working something, and trying to find where the cube would drop in, which I now get much more now. Okay. And there's a certain, I think, it seems to me, a freedom and an ease and a comfortability to be able to kind of play and manipulate each take. Right. As opposed to I got to get it out. I got to make sure, because I think at the beginning a lot of it was that, like, I just got to get the dialogue out and get it right, and oh my God, I'm terrified, and just sort of that holding on, So that for me was like a great experience.
Okay, so now you are on one of the more popular shows on television, Grey's Anatomy. You walked into a situation where it's a hit show, you're suddenly going to shake up a little bit of what's going on in the hospital. First of all, how did Grey's Anatomy come about for you? And I know at first it was not a regular role, I don't believe, but how did it come about, and how did it feel walking into the middle of a cast that had been, and you had some of that obviously on 24, but this is a different, again, another situation, walking into something of that nature?
I think, again, I think a really interesting thing about this business, which people would sort of mention, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if that's true, but it really is true. It's like, one kind of job or someone seeing you in one thing then leads to another thing, which at the time of the disappointment of not getting that job, you think, well, what was the point of that? Like, why did I? Whereas you don't know who maybe saw it or who whatever, or even for you, just the experience of doing it, a lot of the time for me has then led to something else. So. Lipstick Jungle got canceled, and that was very disappointing. And again, you either can wallow in that, or you kind of figure out, again, in this business, you got to figure out the next, so what is. So Shonda Rhimes was doing it called Inside the Box, which it didn't get picked up, but it was an amazing pilot about journalists. So I did that with her. And again, like that, it didn't, I got offered that, which was a, great thing to be able to do. That didn't get picked up. And then several months later, she offered me Teddy on Grey's. So that was kind of a nice way to come around and be able to keep working with Shonda. And coming in, again, for me, it was less, I don't know, like I didn't know what was going to happen with it. I didn't know how I was going to respond to it. And so for me now, it's definitely like for me to take a job, it's got to be the right fit. So it was great for both of us to sort of see, does this fit for me? Does it fit for you? So I went in a kind of great way of, let's just sort of see how the first couple weeks go. And that was very freeing. It was like, and I really got to be very free, I think, with the character and very free with the cast. I mean, it's definitely, you're coming into, I felt like I was coming into their home, they had created this huge hit show, and after 6 years, you want to be respectful of that, and then I think it really worked for I feel like for both sides. I loved being there. I love working with Sandra. I mean, and the whole cast, but most of my stuff is with Sandra and Kevin the Kid. They're extraordinary actors, and it's a fun and tricky, show. I mean, there's like, huge medical dialogue and huge medical, it was like learning a whole new language. Just what I was doing with my hands in the OR thing was, the first day I was like hyperventilating. I was like, I don't think I can do this. I was like, oh my God, but also wanted to be really cool at the same time. I took one look at Sandra. She's like, you're going to be fine. It's going to be fine. I was like, okay, let's go. In here, I was supposed to be like this, like cardiothoracic, goddess who knows exactly what she's doing. I had no clue. I was like, can you pass a knife? It's called a scalpel. I mean, like, dear God. I was like, just let me get like these cardiomegaly, like the lines I had to say. And they're very, very like the tech advisor. She's like, no, you don't pass, the scalpel like that. I was lucky if I could just still hold on to it because my gloves were so slippery from the fake blood. I was like, flip the knife. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, okay, give me one of those. I gotta go practice in my room while they're setting up the lighting. So here I'm in my room, like trying to flip this knife or scalpel. So, there's just like, there's always like a lot of pressure the first time, you kind of come into a new situation, but everyone on that cast and crew was so welcoming and just really, really great.
So they have somebody on the show that helps you with all.
There's a technical advisor.
There's a technical advisor. Besides physical stuff, do they also help you with the language? Some of the language?
Yeah, they have.
There's somebody there to explain something to you. You go, well, what does this actually do if I do this?
Kind of on the day, and that's why it's literally like you feel like you're doing one of those exercises. I can't even do it, but that thing, because you're doing something with your hand, you're trying to figure out what you're doing. The only way I can learn dialogue, I have to understand it. It was the same thing with 24. I mean, I would have dialogue in there that it was so complicated, but it was real. So you can't just sort of make it up, Although there was one funny moment where one of the new, I won't name him, but one of the new actors on the show, he was like an ad lib, and it got into the show. So like in the background of like one of these like huge like medical like ER scenes, he's like an ad lib, and so we all kind of laugh because it's like, yeah, that's what you want to say, ad lib. Yeah. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm trying to look really good. Do I look like a doctor? So you gotta like, it's like you're thrown into trying to figure it out. And yeah, they tell you what you're doing, but they talk to you like you're, like a 5th year surgeon. I'm like, I don't know what that thing you just told me, that thing I'm connecting to. What's that? And so then like go in, I'm like, that's too technical. Just tell me heart, blood, pipe, like give it to me in like real person terms. Like when a doctor's trying to tell you what's wrong with you, you're like, can you explain it to me in normal terms? So once you figure that out, then I can kind of like, but you should see us like right before we're about to shoot, like we're all like someone had to say Satinsky, and he couldn't remember it, and I'm there, and I keep going, Satinsky, like you're sitting down, you know what I mean? Like just anything, mnemonic device. There was another thing where I had to say alcapa, and the same person who said ad lib, he goes, yeah, alpaca. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna kill you, because every time I got to that line, I was like, yeah, and it's it's not the animal, furry animal. It's what they call alcapa syndrome. And you gotta know, like, look like you know what you're doing. Meanwhile, in your brain, you're like, is it the furry animal? Which one's the furry animal? I don't want that one. I want alcapa. And my character's supposed to be teaching people. Yeah. I'm like, oh dear God. Like, I can't teach you. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. But yes, there is a technical advisor, and they do give you, every time they give you the episode, they give you how to sort of pronounce it. But that's another thing. It's like, it's like, I'm trying to figure out how to say the pronunciation of the pronunciation, Right. Sometimes I go to, you can Google words, and they'll give you the sound, but it's like British. Alcapa. I'm like, I can't say it like that, or like, cardiomegaly. I'm like, that's not gonna work either. I was like, how do you say it like an American who just came back from Iraq?
Well, it sounds like even though that the show has a lot of blood in it and some serious stuff, you certainly have a lot of fun on there as well.
There's a lot of fun on that show. And I have to say, Patrick Dempsey is unbearably funny. I'm like, could you just, you know what? I don't need you actually. Just give me a C-stand, put an X, because I can't stop again with the laughing. Like, especially if I'm tired, I start getting the giggles, and it's just really not good. And he's very, very, very funny. So that's kind of gotten me into trouble.
Well, but that's a nice feeling to have when you have to show up to work and you're working so hard to be able to know that you're having a good time.
No, that's good.
So what's going to happen with Teddy coming up?
I don't know. We've been discussing it. It's very top secret over there. It's kind of like working on 24. You can't say much.
Forget about what there's. What would you like to see? Is there anything you'd like to see?
I think.
And maybe we can get them to look at this.
I think the triangle between. For those of you who don't know, I play a cardiothoracic surgeon. I've come back from Iraq. The Sandra Oh character has a major relationship with my kind of best friend from Iraq, played by Kevin McKidd. Right. And I show up and I've been madly in love with the Kevin McKidd character, Owen, and I think he's in love with me, so there's this kind of crazy triangle. I think at a certain point, I think the triangle will have told a great story, but then maybe we need to, I don't know, we'll see. I can't give away too much because they haven't done the finale yet. No,
I'm just wondering what you would like to see.
I still can't say much.
You still can't say much because they listen to you now.
Yeah. Well, even they don't, and then my ideas come true. They'll be like, Kim Raver's a big talker, and let's fire her. And you know what? I'd like to keep the job.
I understand. So we'll stop right there.
I'll just say that I think that it will be good if Teddy does eventually find something of her own.
Right.
How about that?
So you shot the last episode for this season.
It's last Sunday.
For this last season. So what's on tap for you now? Because apparently you don't stop. I mean, you've had this amazing run, first of all, from one to another, and it's just phenomenal. Well deserved, because you're an awesome actress. Yeah. Thank you. So now, but you finished the last episode?
It comes out of total fear of never working again. I'm like, I'll take it, which I don't think ever goes away, which is really unfortunate.
Well, that is an actor's thing. I mean, no matter what you're doing, and you mentioned this before, you're working, you're in a job, or even if it's a series regular and the show's going on, at some point it's going to end, and it's like, well, what do I do then?
Right.
Because actors are constantly in work and then out of work.
Right.
I mean, that's always the thing. So, but I think you have something planned for this hiatus.
I do. I was going to take it off, and then this really interesting project came up, and it's for Lifetime, and so I said I'll take it. So I'll have a couple. In about 2 weeks, I go up to Canada, and I'll be shooting.
What's the name of that movie?
They're sort of in the midst of changing it around, but you'll see it.
They haven't named it yet.
No, they have a title, but I know that they may.
Okay.
So I don't want to be putting down a false.
Okay.
People are very.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm so used to not being able to say anything.
What kind of character do you play? Can you tell us that?
I play a mom, and there's a murder involved and so it's me trying to figure out. What actually happened that night, and I'm raising my 2 kids on my own, and so it's an interesting story. There sort of becomes this real conundrum of wanting to find out the truth, but then it becomes very tricky for her. So I think it'll be interesting.
You mentioned earlier about experience and life experience, and life is important as well as the acting. Is this a case where you're going to bring some of your life into your acting? Because you mentioned mom, 2 kids.
Oh God, I think we always do. I mean, I think as actors we always do. I think when I mean like life, I just think it's important to like, I can get on the thing of like kind of going next thing, and I think it's just important also to like get away and turn the phone off. Just like not be connected to the next thing, and just which I do when I'm with my kids, of being in the moment. But I think what I mean is like whether it's going to go hiking and get away, or if you can travel, get away, because I think it sort of re-energizes the craft that's within each of us as actors. But yeah, I mean, I play a mom of 2 kids, and that will definitely sort of play a role into this character. But I think whatever we do, I think whatever role we connect to it and what we can and bring to it who we are into the role.
Now, you did another Lifetime movie before, didn't you? You played identical twins?
Yeah, that was, oh my God.
Now, how was that?
That was like double the work. Like, it was literally like, okay, memorize her lines. Okay, now I have to memorize her lines. Like it was literally like, sit here, be her, and then like sit there and be her again. It was like there was just never a break. It was like the most, so instead, if it was like 100 pages, it was really like memorizing 200 pages. Because it's like, me, oh 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 me. I literally, I was at the end, they literally had to like pull me out and put me into the airplane. I was exhausted. And it was up in like Winnipeg, Canada, which I don't know, I mean, the mosquitoes are like the size of birds up there. I literally, and the thing that was really messed up about it is I got like mosquito bites like all over my face. So we had trouble because I was playing twins. So how could the twins both have the same mosquito bites that were like blown up like this on my face? So I'd be like, okay, we can't shoot today because that's just not gonna work. But I was very grateful to have a job and to be up there, and but that was definitely a challenge.
But you're going back up to Canada for this? Different part of Canada?
Yeah, different part of Canada. Yeah, it's up in Vancouver.
Oh, cool. Oh, Vancouver
which
is
is
beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah.
Beautiful place. So, question here from someone in the audience. They want to know if you have other aspirations beside acting, such as writing or directing. Do you think you want to go that route?
I do. I don't know. I definitely, have been. It's funny, you're on set and there's a lot of downtime and sort of watching and seeing, and I would love to direct. I was going to direct one of the Lipstick Jungles had we stayed on the air. So yeah, I mean, I think it definitely helps, especially as being an actor. If you can do all of those things, that's amazing. And both of them overwhelm me a little bit, and maybe it's because I'm just sort of trying to hang on when I'm on set with whatever character I'm doing. And but yeah, I think that would be great at some point to be able to do that.
So. Another question actually from someone who's here, but I'm going to change a little bit because their question is just where did you study? But I from what I understand in reading some stuff is that you actually have studied or have your original teacher as a mentor, and you're still kind of in touch with them, or?
Well, to answer the question, I would say that having been in the Children's Theater Company, that was like a beginning of my studying, and then Boston University, I ended up going into their theater program. But then when I went back to New York, I went into Win Hanman, who was my acting coach, and he was amazing. I mean, he was really, I felt like sort of all the stuff that I learned in school, I was like, oh, I didn't really learn anything. And not to take away from Boston University, but maybe it's also just being, a student. I really felt like that was for me. And I think if, anyone you can find, if I had time now, I would definitely go back. And I know that some of the cast members of Grey's have some great teachers out here, and that's just the best thing to do. And eventually I'd like to kind of go back and do that. So I think that that's a great thing to do, is to have, a teacher to be able to go in. And also you have your classmates, and you're having to get up and do scenes with them and have them bounce off ideas of what's working, what's not working. So
you mentioned something that I just want to bring out, because I know I get asked this all the time, and that's about even people who are series regulars, who are successful, they still study. They still go to class. It's like it's something that you can't really stop, because it's like once you let go of it, if you're not working, you're not doing anything. And you want to keep that going. So I was happy to hear that even some of the Grey's actors have their teachers out here that they still go to.
Yeah,
and
I think it's great.
Important.
I think it's important. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an important thing for people to, especially actors who are working to become really successful, to understand that just when you become successful, you still have to continue your studies.
Oh, absolutely. Because I think you can get stuck also in a rut during certain things or certain habits, and it's good to kind of sort of refresh. And that's what I mean by having your peers. Because I think it's also good to hear their ideas and sort of you know, what you can work on, what you can.
Now, you've given, within this conversation tonight, you've given a lot of great advice to actors out there. And I was listening, and I keep going, oh my gosh, this feels like a conversation that every actor should listen to, because you really gave out a lot of important information. And there's a question here that somebody asked was, do you have advice for new female actors starting in the industry in their late 20s? And I guess that's because the person in late 20s is concerned that when you're not starting when you're very young, you kind of have a little bit more difficult road in front of you. Any advice that you would give?
You know, it's so
sitting from where
interesting.
you are?
I think in this business there's such a focus on age and, you know, beauty and thin and like all these like things. And I think it's like we listen to it, and then at a certain point you have to not listen to it. I think you have to really, if you look at the lasting actors, it's about the craft. And so my biggest thing is work the craft, and then work comes. And that's at any age, you know. And then you also will always have that for yourself, do you know? I mean, I would definitely also suggest, and again, like, I don't know what's out here, but like getting part of a theater company or having your other friends, and I don't know whether this space is of it, like even if it was like doing one acts here or doing one acts in a place and getting other actors involved so that you feel like, I mean, my biggest thing is I feel like, oh God, I'm not moving forward. Like what, I can't do a monologue in my room. Like that's what, like, that's not, so that's where like the acting class comes in, or like doing scenes. And I think, yeah, I mean, it's hard. I do, you know, you do feel like there's a stigma on age, but I think if you work the craft, you will always have that. And there are women who are all ages that are working, and I think the lasting actors are the ones that are not concerned about being on People magazine, but that are really working the craft.
So is there a role that you would love to play, a character that's somewhere that you just go, God, I would love to play this character? Maybe not a specific name, but a type of that you haven't done that you would just love to be able to do.
I think I'm having a really fun time with comedy lately. You know, I think, you know, a lot of my beginning stuff was very heavy and very emotional and very deep, and that was just, I'm so grateful that I got that work, and you know, it was sort of amazing to go there, and but I'm having so much fun, you know, whether it's on, you know, Grey's or, you know, working with Ben Stiller. So I think, you know, in that vein, I'm having a good time doing that. And you know, it's funny, I think, you know, when you're starting out, you dream of like what kind of, you know, oh, I want to just do film, or oh, I just, you know what, I'm so grateful to be working right now, and bless you. You know, and there's so many different mediums, and I think it's about, you know, appreciating where you are at the moment, and because it changes and it moves, and so for me, I'm really grateful about, you know, being on Grey's right now and getting this great character who has like depth of emotion, but yet like, you know, kind of wacky, funny moments.
Do you want, is it a conscious choice maybe at some point, since you mentioned the comedy, to actually start looking for that? I mean,
I think I do. I think I always have, and that's what goes back to the thing of saying, you know, I think I've played this role on Third Watch. I'm so grateful for it. It's been such an amazing journey, but I think we're done with this character, and that could have been a huge mistake. Do you know what I mean? I could have,
of course.
You know, I mean,
because you don't know what's coming.
Well, it could have been a huge mistake where I could have been out of work for years. Do you know? And that could have been, you know, I mean, a friend of mine turned down a job because she felt like there wasn't enough money, and she didn't work for like 10 years. And that's really scary. And so when I say that, it's not like, oh, I don't like this job anymore. It's more about, I want to work something different. And am I willing to going back to the theater for no money? And yes, I was willing to do that. Am I grateful that 24? Yes, absolutely. So I think throughout my career, I've sort of said, what do I want to work on next? What's going to challenge me? What am I afraid of to work on next? And, let's try to move myself in that direction.
Any thoughts of half hours?
For me right now, no, because I feel like I wouldn't turn something down that was amazing. And I think there's some amazing half hours out there. But for me right now, I'm getting the comedy, that I think you would have on half hour at Gray's.
Okay.
So.
Oh, good. So anything that you would like to, in general, that maybe we haven't covered or that you would like to impart to people who are going to watch this?
I think it's sort of a thing of like, keep the faith, in the sense that I found it very hard starting out. I just felt like, how is this ever gonna work? How am I ever gonna it's that thing that I was saying before, it was like it was just sort of a catch to me. Like you gotta be in SAG to get a job, but in order to get a job, you gotta be in SAG. And so I think it's that sort of thing of like, again, back to the Harvard thing of finding a route to kind of get in so that you can be a part of something where you can feel like you're in a community where you can make the craft work, and then I did it in a much more sort of legal way of actually being in an acting class in New York, and I think it's always, again, sort of always trying to find a way to kind of work the craft, and find a community where you feel like you can do that and have a really great support system. Because it's like, even to this day, it's like, I think you just need in this being creative person, I think you need a good support system, because you don't know, there's so many unknowns. And I think also the thing is, like I say, keep the faith in the sense that there's so much rejection in this business that it can be very, I think, debilitating of, people feeling not young enough, not this, not that, and you're always gonna feel after an audition, oh, I'm too tall, I'm not tall enough, I'm, to this, to that, and I just would block that out and stick with being true to yourself, and again, like, not trying to figure out, oh, what do they want? Like, what do you want in the role? Like, what? And again, not an attitude of like, I don't care what you want, but like, what are my instincts on this role? And let me be true to myself on what I believe that is. If they have direction or suggestion, God, take it, because that's great. Because that means that your instincts are going in the right direction, but let's try something new. Look at it as an opportunity to be actually, hey, you're getting to play. You're getting to play in that moment. Take that direction. But for me, I know that I can then walk out of that audition, and even if I feel badly that I didn't get the role, at least I know that I was true to myself. And I still, to this day, I don't always do that. Sometimes it's like, oh, I want to please them. I want to be good for them. And and then I'm not true to myself, and I walk away just feeling upset at myself. Whereas I know that if I find something in the script and I feel that I know how to play it, going in, being true to that, then at least I can walk away feeling proud. So.
Well, it's obviously worked for you, because you've had a great run. You're successful. You keep working. You get wonderful roles that I know when I watch you work. I know that you're bringing something into it. It's not just this is just what was there. You can tell that you're bringing something else into it that you have envisioned, and I think that information is important for people to understand, because I think so many actors walk in and go, okay, this is what they're looking for, and they don't recognize that they can bring something into that themselves.
Well, because we want to work.
I know.
Think we just all want to work. So. But
I think your success shows that you can work doing that. That you can bring that in there, and that you can be successful doing that, because you certainly have been.
Well, thank you.
And it's been a pleasure for me to sit here and talk to you,
Thank you.
and I'm sure on behalf of the SAG Foundation, we thank you for taking the time out to do this, to talk to everybody, and to impart, all of your advice and your stories.
Thank you.
And they were great to listen to, and wish you all a success.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
all for coming in.